Hello and welcome to my review of the Jakhals for World Eaters for Warhammer 40,000 from Games Workshop. A pack of these will normally cost you £32.50. However, as you can see there on the left, they are also included in the World Eaters Combat Patrol, which you can pick up for £95. And bearing in mind that a box of 10 Khorne Berserkers is now £40, with a discount, you're kind of getting these and the Lord on Juggernaut for free. So if you haven't got any of these units, or maybe you've just got one unit of 10 Khorne Berserkers, if you can find the Combat Patrol and pick it up, it's definitely the best way to get them. The format of this review follows as usual. I'll have a close look at the minis. I'll explain how easy they were to build, any options. We'll look at the spare parts, of course. Then we'll go through some size comparisons with other World Eaters and non-World Eaters minis. And then finally at the end of the review, I'll go through all of their rules, find out how they perform on the battlefield and whether you should pick them as a viable unit. So first things first, they were all right to build. I read a couple of comments where they were a bit tricky or they were a nightmare. I didn't experience any of that. They were fine. There are some mould lines, but I'd say on the whole, there's probably more on Khorne Berserkers. Khorne Berserkers typically consisted of sort of more parts. You know, you've got an arm and a weapon. You've got two arms and you've got two arms connected with weapons. You've got the head. You've got the body. You've got the two legs, the shoulder pauldrons, and the power plant for the World Eaters. And a couple of units have some extra parts as well. Whereas these were very straightforward. Typically you had like the torso and the legs. You might have had to glue one leg on, and also the adrenaline sort of packs that they carry on their back. One thing I did like is the customization of them. Definitely a massive improvement over the Chaos Cultist box set, which is £30 for 10 and has no customization options pretty much whatsoever. This was a bit of a breath of fresh air in a way, because you could change the heads, you could change the chain swords, chain axes. Of course there's a couple of minis where you couldn't do that at all, but where you couldn't do that, it gave you like a, you know, where they have the blue option and the green option, so instead of like the large weapon, you could have two chain axes, so that's quite cool. So overall they are definitely a more improved version of the Chaos Cultists, and it's up to you whether you wanted a sort of Khorne World Eaters themed Chaos Cultist unit. Also, you've got to remember that you've also got to note that they don't have any ranged weapons at all, whereas the Chaos Cultists, that they do have like auto pistols, las pistols, stubbers, things like that. So there is that to take into account if you were going to use these as cultists. But you know what, if you're playing against me and you had like a box of cultists and these Jakhals, I'd let you use them as cultists, and likewise I'd let you use them as Jakhals. No issues there, and I'm sure your friendly opponent would as well. Let's have a look at these. Now, at first I thought this Jakhal was the leader, but he is actually called a Dishonored. Is it a Dishonored Space Marine? I'm not sure. I think, you know, unfortunately the Codex doesn't go into detail about that. Could it have been a Space Marine that's like ripped of his armour and then thrown into this? I don't think he is, for the main reasons that he's only got one wound and his toughness is 3. Yes, his strength may be 4. You can get kind of Imperial models with vat grown muscle added and things like that to be strength 4, but the real key in this is that toughness 3 and only 1 wound, whereas we know Space Marines now have 2 wounds. So yeah, I don't know about that. And also in the lore, some of the World Eaters champions, they actually have these kind of Dishonored kind of large units in their presence instead of other berserkers, for the reason that the aggressive ones are always challenging and always fighting with the leader, and also the quiet ones are also pretty bad because they will eventually plot to overthrow the champion. So that's the reason why champions normally have these guys around rather than actual Khorne berserkers. Makes a lot of sense. That's what the law says. So you've got one of these Dishonored, and I thought he was like the main guy in charge, I guess, but he's not. He's just a Dishonored. He's got this cage of skulls and this like chain cleaver thing, and his stims, and he's pretty large, you know, compared to the rest of them. He's on this actual Terminator base, his 40mm base too, and the rest are on their 32mm bases. I'm not sure why they're on the 32. They could actually be on, I think they would look a bit odd if they were on, and they are a little bit bigger than Chaos Cultists, so hence why they're on the 32mm. They would look a bit odd if they were on the same 25mm that Cultists are on. So yeah, there's one of these Dishonored, and then you've also got a pack leader. So this is the, I say, main guy in charge. He's on the same size base. I guess he stands out a little bit just with his pose, but not as much as like normal kind of cultist leaders stand out. But yeah, it looks fantastic. I like the chainsword and chain axe combo he's going for, and I really like the rest of the miniatures. You know, you've got this kind of corner icon bearer type of jackal. As I say, you can swap all the heads around, which is great, and some of the weapons. You've got some of these poses where they're running, you know, and they're just blind with rage, and they've got the chainswords out. This is quite an odd pose, like a winged angel kind of pose, sort of. That is a bit odd, that one. But you've got this one with this large chain eviscerator weapon. Very, very cool. I think that's like a normal Space Marine chainsword size, isn't it? But yeah, I really like the poses. There's some representation as well. Some of them are female, you know, and some of them are male, which is cool. So there is that, and you kind of expect that. I just wish there were more, and even more customization than what you get. Speaking of the customization then, these are the spare parts. So of course, nowhere near the same number of spare parts as the Lord Invocatus or Chaos Lord on Juggernaut, but you are left with 5 human-sized heads. You've got this alternate weapon for the Dishonored. You can have this instead of the Cage of Skulls. You've got this extra piece that would have gone on an arm. I think on this arm, it's like a chain sword, kind of chain fist kind of weapon that would go on there. You've got a couple of chain axes. You've got the other alternative weapon for the Dishonored, so he can run these 2 weapons, dual chain swords, I guess, and this chain sword as well, spare, and this different icon for the pack leader. That's it. So not that many, not as many as you'd expect if you picked up a second box of these. I would have liked to have seen 3 times the number of spare parts with this particular set, especially as you can field 20 of them in one unit. So it kind of makes sense that you'd have loads of spare parts and things. Still, it is a bit of an improvement over the Chaos Cultist box set, but not quite up to my expectations of these sort of human-sized cultist minis. I'm hoping that they do a reversal with these kind of small minis that are in sort of Space Marine forces, and offer them much more customization, because, you know, with Khorne Berserkers moving down to 10 Space Marines in a unit, I feel like sort of customization in the horde aspects of these armies is more important than ever, and getting those differences between them. And the thing is, the ironic thing is actually the Khorne Berserkers, that you can only have 10 in a unit, they have way more customization and options than their kind of horde unit equivalent, you know, these Jakhals or cultists. It's, yeah, that's a bit strange having those many options for the sort of core Space Marine unit. Size comparisons then. Well, of course, we're going to compare them to the HQ in the box. You can either build the Chaos Lord on Juggernaut or the Invocatus. If you build the Invocatus, he is going to tower massively over the Jakhals. If you go for the Chaos Lord, it's not going to be too much of a size jump there, but definitely with the Invocatus, with that pose as well, he's way bigger. It's up to you which you like. You can build either or in the set. And then with a Khorne Berserker, which I've got right here, this is where they stand up to a Khorne Berserker. So yeah, barely up to the gorget, barely up to the chest plate for these Jakhals, or these cultist equivalent. And then with the Dishonored, which is on a 50mm base there, which is on his Terminator base there, he is kind of the same size, kind of the same size as a Space Marine, which makes me think he is a Space Marine, but it's not as tough anymore. So yeah, that's how big the Dishonored is. Quite a big beefy unit in that squad. I just want to do a little comparison with just a normal Chaos Cultist right here. And so smaller base, 25mm base, and they are actually smaller. It might be to do with the pose, but even if it was to do with the pose, you can just see that the legs are longer and the torsos are longer on the Jakhals. So yeah, they're still going to look fine a bunch mixed with them. They're just going to look a bit more muted because they're not kind of throwing chain axes and things around, and they've got like long blades and pistols rather than big beefy chain axes and things. Compared to a normal Chaos Space Marine, right here, very similar size wise. Chaos Space Marines to World Eaters to Khorne Berserkers. So yeah, you could use them with your Chaos Space Marines, no problem, they'll look fine. And then of course the last three size comparisons I always like to make is just with some Imperium models. So we have a Primaris Space Marine there, Slime Marbo there, and a Legacy Space Marine there. So Legacy Space Marine, the Jakhals aren't as big as a Legacy Space Marine, which is fine, even with these tall poses. The Dishonored though is bigger than a normal Space Marine, like a Legacy one. Compared to Slime Marbo, they are similar height. I'd probably say the Jakhal is a bit taller, and compared to Primaris definitely towers above them. Compared to the Dishonored, yeah, Primaris is taller than Dishonored, and I think the Primaris is actually taller than the Khorne Berserkers. I did my size comparison in their review video, but yeah, Primaris is taller than the Khorne Berserkers, even with those running upright poses that they've got going. So you have arrived abruptly at the end of my review, where I will go through all of the rules for these World Eaters Jakhals. Now of course they are a troop choice, they're the second troop choice in the World Eaters Codex, so there are only 2 troop choices for them. You're either going to pack a 10-man unit of Khorne Berserkers, or you can have like a 5-man unit, I guess, 2 5-man unit of Khorne Berserkers, and a 10 up to 20 unit of Jakhals. Now before I talk about the unit composition, I'll just say that they're a power points cost of 4 and a points cost of 7 points per model. The pack leader and the Dishonored don't cost any more points, but it does cost 5 points more for the Jakhal icon, the Mauler Chainblade, and the Skullmasher, if you pick those weapon options. So unit composition, you got between 8 to 17 Jakhals, 1 Jakhal pack leader, and 1 to 2 Dishonored. Of course, compared to Khorne Berserkers, they are usually 22 points per model. So 1 Khorne Berserker costs 3 times as much actual points as a Jakhal does. So what that means is you can have 8 Jakhals, a pack leader, and 1 Dishonored. There's your 10. There's my 10 there. Or you can have your 17 Jakhals, 1 pack leader, and 2 Dishonored. So you're not going to obviously get 2 pack leaders for 1 big blob of them, which is fine. But that does mean that for a unit of 10 like mine are, it's only 70 points. If you've got a unit of 20, then you're looking at 140 points, which isn't too bad, really. So their stat line for normal Jakhals, it's a movement of 6 inches, weapon skill and ballistic skill both 4+, strength and toughness of 3, 1 wound, 3 attacks, leadership 6, and a save of 6+. The pack leader has the same stat line, except they get 4 attacks instead of 3 and a leadership of 7. And the Dishonored has the same stat line, but has a strength 4, so still the same number of attacks as a normal Jakhal. The unit can only contain 1 Dishonored model for every 9 models it contains. If the unit contains 11 or more models, it has a power rating of 8. Every Jackal and Jackal Pack Leader model is equipped with Auto Pistol, Jackal Chain Blades. Every Dishonored model is equipped with Jackal Chain Blades. So that's an important note to make. Even though they're not holding their pistols, like none of them, they all have the Auto Pistols. Super! How awesome are Auto Pistols? Well, my answer to that is not very. They're a range of 12 inches, they're a pistol 1, they're a strength of 3, AP 0 and a damage of 1. You might as well just use your flashlight. The chain blades though, is a strength of the user, which is 3, AP minus 1, damage 1. Not much better, but still, you're getting that extra AP. And with 3 attacks each, you know, you've got 20 of them, you're looking at 60 attacks, which is quite nice. 60 attacks for 140 points. Anyway, this is where it gets interesting. So for every 10 models in this unit, 1 Jackal's Jackal Chain Blades can be replaced with 1 Mauler Chain Blade, which mine has. It's that long weapon. The Mauler Chain Blade adds +2 to the strength, that's strength 5. AP jumps up to -2 and damage also jumps up to 2. However, each time an attack is made with a weapon, you subtract 1 from that attack's hit roll. That's pretty poor, you know. Yes, you've got 3 attacks with the chain blade, but it's a 50-50 chance of you hitting anyway, and now it's just dropped even more. So you're going to be lucky if you, if only 1 attack gets through. So 1 attack at strength 5, AP -2. Yes, it's not as good as it sounded before, is it? Any number of Dishonored can each be equipped with 1 Skull Masher. So this is that iron caged chain with skulls in that the Dishonored is carrying. That's strength of the user, which is 4. Okay, AP -2 for some reason, damage 2, but each time an attack is made with this weapon, you make 2 hit rolls instead of 1. That's nice, but you know, that just equates to 6 attacks in the end. For every 10 models in this unit, 1 Jackal can be equipped with 1 Jackal icon. Now with a Jackal icon, the bearer's unit gains the icon keyword. Each time a combat attrition test is taken for the bearer's unit, if that unit includes any models equipped with a Jackal icon, add 1 to that combat attrition test. It's pretty good. Abilities, they've got the Blood Tithe and then Jackal Stims. So this is odd, very odd that you would get a troop choice with an extra ability, especially for these small points cost, but these get Jackal Stims. So once per battle, when this unit is selected to fight, you can declare it will use its Stims. If you do so, this unit suffers D3 mortal wounds. Okay, that's not that good, especially as they've got 1 wound each, and statistically you're going to get 2. So, you know, you can wipe out 2 wounds straight away, or 2 models pretty much. But until the end of the phase, you add 1 to strength characteristic of models in this unit. It's up to you if you want to do that. I mean, you don't have to. You can declare, and it's once per battle, so not once per turn or anything like that. It's just once per battle. So if they're going up against something really, really tough, like other Space Marines and Terminators, then you might want to just slaughter between 1 and 3 of them to increase that strength. I don't think it's worth it. I'd rather have more attacks than the increase in strength. And I think they're gonna, I say hold their own, their save is 6+, but I think they're gonna kind of be all right in a large blob of 20. But would I use them in a unit of 10? Hell no. There's no way I'd use these in a unit of 10. I'd you know, use my cultists and bump up the numbers somehow to have them as a blob of 20. Unless you're going for, you know, maximum points in other areas. So you might just want to take a unit of 10 just to fill up your troop choice, and then have your other troop choices as 10 Khorne Berserkers, and then be able to buy other things in your army. The keywords: Chaos, Khorne, World Eaters, Infantry, Cultists and Jackals. So that's it, that's the Jackals. The kit is an improvement over the Chaos Cultist kit, the standard one, but not by much. And I was expecting more from these, more options and more posability and things. I still think that the Khorne Berserker kit is fantastic. My favourite is the Lord Invocatus, of course, and that kit is fantastic. You get loads of spare parts, but a close second is the Khorne Berserker kit still. This kit, I'd probably say I prefer it slightly more to the 8-bound, 8-bound being my least favourite, but more on that in the upcoming World Eaters Army release review video that I do. Whenever there's a new release of any army, I do the full review at the end, and that's what I would be doing for these. What do you guys think of the Jakhals? Do you think it's a bit of a missed opportunity? Would you have liked to see more customization, more weapons, maybe some ranged weaponry? I don't know. Maybe they're just so infused with rage. Please do put your thoughts and opinions down in the comments as always. Thank you for joining me today. Thank you for watching. Blood for the Blood God.